Hello, everyone, and welcome to Radical Thinker, the place where we challenge Western media narratives and perspectives. Today, 9th of April 2026, Thursday, we are entering day 41 of this conflict imposed by the Americans and the Israelis on the Islamic Republic of Iran. We are supposedly on the second day of a two-week ceasefire agreed somehow by the Americans and the Iranians, but as we saw in the past 24 hours, this ceasefire either exists or doesn't exist. The plan set for negotiations for this week either exists or it doesn't exist. Is not clear because each side, be it the Iranian side or the American side, they have different opinions about the topics that they are going to discuss in order to have a process of negotiations and to reach an eventual agreement, which in my opinion is not going to happen. In my opinion, Iran is just losing time and offering a lot of time for the American and Israeli side to regroup, rearm, and find new ways of attacking and hurting the Islamic Republic of Iran. But what happened yesterday, first and foremost, Israel didn't seem to care too much about the so-called ceasefire between the Americans and the Iranians and proceeded to probably one of the biggest bombing campaigns on Lebanon. Yesterday, they hit more than 100 residential areas in central Beirut, in the southern suburbs, and also in the Bekaa Valley. According to the latest media tools, there are, let me check what is the latest toll. Yeah, there are more than 254 dead Lebanese and more than 1,165 people which have been injured by the Israeli bombings yesterday, which, as I was saying, took place in Beirut and in the Bekaa Valley. One more war crime. I think everyone knows by now how Israel is operating. They don't care about international law. They have absolutely no limit. They would go as far as they please and kill anyone, anywhere, and anyhow in order to proceed with their crazy and demented agenda. I mean, what happened yesterday? It's a complete shame for the international community. There were barely any condemnations, and even if there were some condemnations, especially from the West, they were very weak and toned down. I mean, we are talking about a country which is literally bombing one city, more than 100 residential areas, and killing in a couple of minutes more than 254 people. Imagine if Iran would have done this, if Iran would have bombed the shit out of Tel Aviv and would have killed in 10 minutes more than 300 Israelis. Imagine then the shock, the international condemnations, the flow of international condemnations and the support for Israel. Imagine how things would have happened if, as I said, Iran would have bombed like this, in this manner, in this crazy and demented manner, Israel. Israel is losing the plot, and therefore they are going to become as aggressive as they can. They are going to try to inflict as much damage and to kill as many Lebanese as possible, because it's clear that their ground invasion, the operations that they are taking place in the south of Lebanon are not successful. On contrary, they seem to be stuck, and it becomes more and more obvious that Hezbollah has the upper hand when it comes to ground warfare, and the Israelis, all they can do is to try to enter some villages and to lose tanks, Merkava tanks. It seems that until now they lost more than 100 Merkava tanks, which have been destroyed by ATGM fire coming from the Hezbollah fighters. So yesterday was one of the most horrific days for Lebanon in the past years. I think it was as horrific as the Beirut port bombing, which took place some years ago, which officially, as the official narrative goes, is an accident But in my opinion, it was also an operation coming from the Israelis with a clear agenda of disrupting social peace inside Lebanon and creating the ground for another civil war. Fortunately, a civil war didn't occur at that time, but time will tell because the situation in Lebanon now is very tight. The Lebanese have a puppet government, President Aoun and Prime Minister Nawaf Salam. They are nothing more than puppets of the Americans and of the Israelis. Their statements and their policies and their focus only on disarming the resistance in the south of Lebanon are more than suspicious, especially taking into account that the Lebanese army almost doesn't exist. It's not capable of defending Lebanese territory. And when a couple of weeks ago, when the Israelis started their attempt of a ground invasion in South Lebanon, the Lebanese army left. Literally, they left, they ran away from the battlefield, and they set up checkpoints in other parts of Lebanon to be sure that Shias from Lebanon, that members of Hezbollah are not going on in the south to fight the Israeli invading forces. So this is in 2026 what the Lebanese army and the Lebanese government can do, but the Lebanese government, which is, as I said, nothing more than a puppet of the West, has only one focus, and that focus is to destroy Hezbollah, to disarm Hezbollah, and to give up Lebanon on a silver platter for the Israelis and the Americans. So very hard times for the Shia community and for all the patriotic people inside Lebanon. They are not only fighting direct and genocidal war from the Israelis, but also they are getting sabotaged, they are getting spied on by this illegitimate, I can say, government leadership in Beirut. The Prime Minister Nawab Salam and also President Aoun, they should be ashamed of themselves and how they carried themselves as officials of Lebanon for the past 1 year and a half. They did nothing but bring shame on the Lebanese state, and they did nothing but serve the interests of the Americans and of the Israelis, unfortunately. Going back to the so-called ceasefire, tomorrow, supposedly on Friday, we should have a first round of indirect talks between the American side and the Iranian side in Islamabad, in Pakistan. And it's clear that things are not yet clearly determined by the Iranians, because we saw the Iranian ambassador in Islamabad, in Pakistan, writing a post that the diplomatic delegation of Iran is going to leave today for Islamabad to take part in the negotiations. On the other hand, we are seeing the post of Syed Abbas Araghchi, which is the foreign minister of the Islamic Republic, and he says the Iran-US ceasefire terms are clear and explicit. The US must choose ceasefire or continued war via Israel. It cannot have both. The world sees the massacres in Lebanon, the ball is in the US court, and the world is watching whether it will act on its commitment. This statement comes after Donald Trump, through its spokesperson, through Miss Caroline Lewitt, he said that he doesn't include Lebanon into the ceasefire, and he has no problem with Israel continuing to fight in Lebanon against Hezbollah, although the Iranian side is it's repeating the fact that the agreement for negotiations included also a temporary ceasefire for Lebanon, so not only a direct ceasefire between the American and the Iranian side, but the Americans are changing their word every 5 minutes. Also, yesterday, Donald Trump reneged. He denied that he approved as a basis for the negotiations the 10-point proposal coming from Iran that we discussed yesterday. A 10-point proposal which stipulates that the Americans will recognize the Iranian control over the Strait of Hormuz, that the Americans will finish with the sanctions, will remove all the direct and indirect sanctions against Iran, that they will pay reparations for this war of aggression, and so on and so forth. As I was saying yesterday, don't expect the Americans to keep their word. And after a couple of hours, we saw Donald Trump and we saw his spokesperson firmly saying that they don't agree with the Iranian 10-point plan, that they are not going to allow Iran to enrich uranium, that Iran must give up on its nuclear program and should deliver the 450, 460 kilograms enriched uranium to the Americans. So this so-called ceasefire and this plan of negotiations, to me, sounds now more like a capitulation from the American side. I mean, they wanted Iran to capitulate. I don't see any point of negotiations here, because if you don't allow Iran to enrich uranium and to have a nuclear program, a civil nuclear program, then there is almost nothing to negotiate about. Then they are talking about Iran delivering the highly enriched uranium, which is a bargaining chip for the Iranians, and which could be also used to develop nuclear weapons if this American and Israeli aggression continues and escalates. So the Iranian side, in my opinion, they should be completely either idiotic or completely suicidal to give up on the enriched uranium which they are currently possessing. This enriched uranium should be separated and should be kept in safe places. And if the situation will require it, it should be used to develop nuclear weapons as a deterrent factor for further American and Israeli aggression. If Iran is going to capitulate in such a manner and give the Americans the enriched uranium, they are not going to survive. I mean, a new Libya or Syrian scenario, it's very probable to occur if such a decision is made. Also, it's not very encouraging to see the fact that the Iranian diplomats are not talking among themselves before posting, because as I was saying, we saw the Iranian ambassador in Pakistan posting that a diplomatic delegation, an Iranian diplomatic delegation, is on its way to Pakistan today in order to begin tomorrow the negotiation, the indirect negotiations with the American side. But we are seeing on the other side the foreign minister of Iran saying that the US must acknowledge a ceasefire also for Lebanon, otherwise there is no point of having talks. In my opinion, the Iranians, if they are not taking a strong stance now, they are going to lose a lot of credibility, especially among their allies. And when I'm talking about their allies, I'm talking about the Shia community in Lebanon, Hezbollah, of course, as an organization, and also the resistance movements in Iraq and the Yemenis, the Ansarullah. If Iran doesn't take action and doesn't come now to support Hezbollah in this hard moment for them, and doesn't continue to bomb Israel in order to press it to stop its current aggression against Lebanon, then Iran will lose a lot of credibility among its allies, and this will be manipulated and it will be exploited very, very well by the Americans and the Israelis in order to create disunity among the axis of resistance. So Iran should be, in my opinion, very careful how it's going to approach this situation. A good thing is that although they initially agreed on opening for 2 weeks the Strait of Hormuz, as soon as the massacre in Lebanon took place, they closed again the strait, and from the information that I managed to gather, the strait as of now is completely closed, and for now there are no signs that it will be opened in the next days, and probably neither the next week. No energy tanker has so far passed the Strait of Hormuz since the start of the ceasefire. The 4 vessels that crossed the strait yesterday were carrying dry cargo, according to a Kepler source. So the Strait of Hormuz is it's being closed in retaliation for the Israeli aggression against Lebanon, against Beirut and Bekaa, which is a good thing. What is not a good thing is that the Iranians are giving signs that they are still going to go to Islamabad for this type of attempts of negotiations, although Donald J. Trump and J.D. Vance and other U.S. officials already are changing their comments and their words regarding the plan to negotiate. For example, let's see what Donald Trump wrote on Truth Social a couple of hours ago. He said all U.S. ships, aircraft, and military personnel with additional ammunition, weaponry, and anything else that is appropriate and necessary for the lethal prosecution and destruction of an already substantially degraded enemy will remain in place in and around Iran until such time as the real agreement reached is fully complied with. If for any reason it is not, which is highly unlikely, then the shooting starts bigger and better and stronger than anyone has ever seen before. It was agreed a long time ago, and despite all of the fake rhetoric to the contrary, no nuclear weapons and the Strait of Hormuz will be open and safe. In the meantime, our great military is loading up and resting, looking forward actually to its next conquest. America is back. This is what Donald Trump, the clown in charge of American policies, has posted a couple of hours ago on Truth Social. An interesting statement. I don't know if you caught this part. He says, it was agreed a long time ago, and despite all of the fake rhetoric to the contrary, no nuclear weapons and the Strait of Hormuz will be open and safe. Well, Orange Clown, the Iranians have been saying for more than 2 decades, if not more, that they are not looking for developing nuclear weapons. Your intelligence officials in your government, in your administration, provided you with extensive reports that Iran is not currently looking to develop nuclear weapons. There is absolutely no proof that Iran or at least it wasn't trying until the war started to develop nuclear capabilities. And yes, before this war started, the Strait of Hormuz was open to everyone and safe. So yeah, everyone agreed on that, but it seems that the only side which didn't agree on that was the Israeli and the American side, because they opened Pandora's box. They attacked Iran the second time in less than 1 year, and now Iran, seeing itself caught in this situation and being the victim of this aggression from 2 nuclear-capable countries, 2 nuclear-armed countries, the United States and Israel, I think there is a big discussion inside Iran now if this is the time or not for Iran to develop nuclear weapons as a deterrent for further aggression. The logical path for them would be to do so now, when they still have access to that enriched uranium, and when they still have in underground bases nuclear technology, which will provide them the capability to develop a nuclear deterrent. And also the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz was open to everyone before the war started. But now Iran is giving strong signs that it will change the status, the legal status of the Strait of Hormuz, and this Strait of Hormuz will become a point of control for the Iranians and also for the Omani, and they are planning to have a joint venture on this and put taxes on all the ships, the oil tankers that will be crossing the strait from now on. This has been already happening for a couple of weeks, and Iran is already making money out of this process. And for people to know, it seems that the Strait of Hormuz is not in international waters. the Strait of Hormuz is part of Iranian national waters and of Omani national waters. So there are no international waters there. So the fact that the Iranians and also the Omani allowed for decades for ships to pass for free through the Strait of Hormuz, it's something special. I mean, in my opinion, Iran should have done this a long time ago, but probably they didn't have the military capability to double down such a plan and to take control over the strait and make money out of it. The same way Egypt has taken control many, many decades ago on the Suez Canal, which they are controlling since the times of since the 60s, when there was that conflict with the British, with Gamal Abdel Nasser, the president of Egypt at that time. The British didn't want to allow the Egyptians to take over the Suez Canal, and it was a time when the Americans intervened surprisingly on the side of Egypt, and the Egyptian side managed to nationalize the Suez Canal, which is a source of income currently for the Egyptian side. So, in my opinion, this should be also the status of the Strait of Hormuz. It should be a joint venture between the Omani and the Iranian side. They should make money out of it, they should control it, and they should be the ones providing security for the oil tankers crossing their national waters. Not the Americans, not the French, not the British. No one else has the jurisdiction or the moral high ground to come to the Persian Gulf and to dictate what should happen there. Only the Iranian side and also the Omanis should be those in charge of taking care of the Strait of Hormuz, because it's their territory, and it's their area of control and influence. But as I was saying, unfortunately, I'm not seeing clear actions from the Iranian side for now, especially considering what happened yesterday in Lebanon. I don't see them taking a very strong stance. I was expecting last night to see at least some missiles being fired by the Iranian armed forces to Israel to hit targets in Tel Aviv, or I don't know, in other places in Israel. This doesn't seem to occur, and this is a worrying state of facts, because the Iranians, they have nothing to gain. It's clear they are losing time thinking that they are going to get an agreement with the Americans by going to Islamabad, to Pakistan. This is just wishful thinking from their side. The American side is just buying time. They want to control the price of oil. Already the price of oil went a little bit down when Trump announced a possible ceasefire. Now they want to have these 2 weeks in which to be able to rearm, regroup, and find new ways of attacking Iran. And I'm not sure what the Iranian plans are. I can understand if from a military standpoint, they want to have 2 weeks of ceasefire in order to also regroup, replan, move probably some missiles from one place to another. Probably there is this reasoning behind the fact that Iran has accepted this 2 weeks ceasefire, but I don't think that this ceasefire will last 2 weeks, let alone that it will lead to a real treaty, a real agreement with the Americans. The Americans, regardless if we are talking about the administration of Donald J. Trump, or if we are talking about the Obama administration, or I don't know, a future administration, they are not going to keep their part of the deal. The American side never keeps its deals. I mean, this is a common understood reality factor. This is a law. The Americans don't keep their deals. They didn't keep their deals regarding NATO expansion with Soviet Union. They didn't keep their deals with many other countries. They're talking about having a closure to the war in Ukraine, but on the other hand, they are looking for new methods and new ways to destabilize China and Russia and every country which would have an independent agenda. And even if a direct war would stop, for example, let's say in 2 weeks, there is a real closure to this conflict. I'm sure that they are going back, the American side and the Israelis are going to go back to indirect types of warfare, creating chaos inside Iran, another type of protests, violent riots, and so on and so forth to weaken the Iranian state. And if the Iranians think that the Americans are going to remove the sanctions, when they are not doing this for more than 6 or 7 decades, when it comes about the small islands, the small island of Cuba, then they have mental issues. I'm sorry to say, this is not how things are done. The Americans are not going to keep any type of deal unless you have the military capacity to invade them. I mean, if you are not going to bring the Americans down like the Soviet Union took the Germans down in the Second World War, you cannot expect that just because you resisted to their attacks for more than 1 month, that now the Americans are going to become more manageable and that they are going to play nice and remove the sanctions and say, yeah, we did a mistake, we are not going to do this again, it was our mistake, we shouldn't have started this war, and now we are going to close our relations with Israel, and Israel, you are going to be on your own from now on. No, this is wishful thinking. I cannot even contemplate that the fact that someone in the Iranian administration, in the leadership, in the Iranian intelligence services, or in the Iranian Revolutionary Guards or the army, they can even think that this could become reality. This is complete nonsense. The Americans are just buying time. They had a big setback last week when they tried to do a special operation in Isfahan to capture some parts of that uranium. They failed because they were ambushed by the Iranian armed forces. They were forced to destroy some of their airplanes and ammunition and weapons that they had with them. And after that, they had to create this bullshit Hollywood narrative story about more than 100 special forces going inside Iran to save one colonel after his jet fighter crashed inside Iran. This is complete nonsense. It didn't happen like this. I saw a lot of political and military analysts. Most of them seem to agree that the Americans wouldn't have used so many forces and especially so many airplanes and so much weapons and military technology in order just to get back one guy, even if he was a colonel in the American Air Forces. This is not how it's done. If you want to get back one stranded pilot, you use a small force as less visible as possible. You try to do something in the night, something which is done in hiding without attracting too much attention. You are not going to send hundreds of special forces and no less than, I think, 7 or 8 aircraft, airplanes and helicopters just to get one guy, and we're close to the nuclear facility from Isfahan. I mean, it's clear, it's obvious that they try to do something else. They tried a special operation to get their hands on the uranium. It didn't work out, and therefore they had to retreat. And in front of the American public, the Trump administration and his lackeys, they had to come up with this bullshit story just to save the day, because otherwise it would have been another complete failure for the American side. But I don't understand the Iranian position. You had the high ground. You had success last week. You managed to shoot down multiple American aircraft. Your Lego videos are enjoyed by everyone on the planet. Your political figures are like international superheroes. And now suddenly you come up and say, yeah, okay, we are going to go for a ceasefire with the Americans, and we are going to try again to negotiate the third time with the same people, with Witkoff, with Jared Kushner, with J.D. Vance. and especially with Donald J. Trump, who is a loose cannon. The guy is a demented guy who provides the planet a freak show continuously. Every time when he appears in front of the media or when he posts on social channels, he is doing his theatrics and he is going ballistics. Everyone can see that the guy has lost his mind. Unfortunately, there is no one reasonable close to Donald Trump to activate Article 25 or how it's called and suspend this lunatic from power. So I don't know what the Iranians are expecting. They have in front of them an American president which is completely crazy, demented, and bloodthirsty. They see that around Donald Trump there are only puppets and yes men selected by the Mossad and the Israeli side to provide Donald Trump with the support for creating this conflict. Yet they think that there is a possibility for a type of negotiations with the Americans for a third time now. This is lunacy. Okay, you could have went for negotiations if you really want to go for negotiations, but if you want to do that, at least don't open the strait and continue the firing. You can have negotiations while the missiles are still raining down on US bases in the Gulf countries and on Israeli bases and other facilities there. I mean, there is absolutely no reason to stop the shooting. And we saw the results. In a couple of hours after this announcement of a ceasefire, Israel took the initiative and they committed this slaughter, literal slaughter in Lebanon, killing around 300 people and wounding more than 1,000. And saying, yeah, we don't care about the ceasefire. Hezbollah is not part of the ceasefire. Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire. And anyway, we are going to do what we want to do. And no one can stop us, not even the Americans. And of course that no one can stop them because the American administration currently is nothing more than a puppet of the Israelis. The Israelis, we need to speak the loud words and we say it to say it openly. The Israelis managed through their influence to put their own president in the White House. And they did all of this just to have open field to create this conflict, to make the Americans go to war against the Islamic Republic of Iran. So if the Israelis invested so much influence, so much money, so much time, so much intelligence into creating this situation which led to the developments that we all are seeing now, how can anyone believe, especially from the Iranian side, that suddenly now the Americans will see things differently and that they are going to change their mindset, end the war, and decouple from the Israelis? No, this is not going to happen because you didn't put enough pressure on the Americans to do this. If the oil barrel is not $200 for at least 6 months, if the West doesn't go through the worst economical crisis since last century, you didn't put enough pressure. Yeah, you started to put some pressure. Trump, through its statements and games, managed to somehow control the price of the oil, more or less. The damage has already begun to happen. It's already here, the damage on the international economic markets. But it's not enough. I mean, this is not enough pressure to make the American side decouple from the Israelis. And also regarding the military tactics of Iran towards Israel, let's face it and let's be honest with our analysis and how we are viewing things. Look what Israel did yesterday in less than 10 minutes in Beirut. The amount of damage. So Israel is literally blowing up buildings, entire blocks of flats, entire neighborhoods in a couple of minutes, while Iran has resorted to the tactics of using long-range missiles with cluster munitions. Those cluster munitions, they create damage. No one says that they cannot create damage, but they don't have the explosive power to directly demolish buildings like Israel is doing in Lebanon currently, and not only in Lebanon, they did the same for more than 4 weeks also in inside Iran, in Tehran and in other cities. So how are you going to put pressure on the Israelis when you are still fighting them by wearing gloves, Iran? This is my question. This I cannot understand. I mean, you either don't possess the military capability, the firepower to deliver real damage, strong damage, to cripple their infrastructure in order to make them submit and back down from this war of aggression, or you don't want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. Why? Because you are afraid of what? Of the next step in the escalation ladder, which would be what? If you are going to demolish the skyscrapers in Tel Aviv, what will happen? Tel Aviv probably will go nuclear. This is probably the mindset in Tehran. But I think this is a losing point. This is a wrong way of seeing things. You're going to lose by thinking like this, Iran, because Israel anyway it's unhinged. Iran can use at any time a nuclear weapon currently in this war, and nothing will happen. Literally, there will be probably some condemnations if we are going to see the nuclear mushroom cloud in Tehran, or I don't know, in Isfahan. But then after that, nothing will happen besides condemnations. I see some people writing on social media that if Israel will do this, then Russia or China or Pakistan, they are going to nuke Israel. No! Who is going to do this? No one will fight a nuclear war for Iran if Iran doesn't prepare for it, and if it doesn't create the deterrence against a nuclear strike. Russia is not going to ever to go to nuke Israel. This is complete idiocy to even believe such a thing. The Russians, I mean, they have 1 million people with Russian passports inside Israel. Who is going to fight? China? China is not even fighting now to get Taiwan, although they have the military firepower, but they have a different strategy. And Pakistan is going to nuke Israel for Iran. Come on, guys! You need to open your eyes. This is not going to happen. This is complete bullshit, and everyone should understand this. Israel at this moment, if they want, they can nuke any city in Iran, and there will be nothing going against them. Okay, there will be some verbal declaration, condemnations, uproar. People will be shocked for 1 week, and after that, everyone will focus with their own life. The only thing that would deter such an escalatory path is for Iran to develop nuclear weapons. But I'm not honestly seeing them going on this path. On contrary, I see them losing time with bullshit attempts at doing ceasefires with the Americans. For what? It's clear that this administration has only one goal, and it's a final goal, and this final goal will not change: the destruction of Iran as a state, not regime change. This is bullshit. They never aim for a regime change. They want to destroy Iran as a nation state. Of course, they want to do it in such a way that they are not too hurt by themselves, and in a way which somehow protects the international economy, because also the American side can be impacted if Iran one day blows to smithereens all the oil and gas facilities in the Middle East. They are going to get affected, although they are trying to portray themselves as immune to Iranian attacks. But still, the plan doesn't change. Even if they get a ceasefire, even if they get an agreement, the next administration will rip up the agreement, will come up and say, yeah, but you know, Iran, you did this, you have a problem with human rights, you don't treat women well, and other bullshit like this, and they're going to impose sanctions again and again and again. The only path for Iran is to find ways of having economic independence, of getting less and less and less affected by American sanctions, and to go on the path of full militarization, developing nuclear weapons as a deterrent. I'm repeating myself, as a deterrent. I'm not saying that Iran should build a nuclear weapon today to nuke the shit out of Tel Aviv tomorrow. No, this is not the idea, and no one thinks about this. But when you, as a nation, Iran, are getting attacked by two nuclear powers, the United States and Israel, and when you are literally at their mercy, okay, you can fight them, and you have shown the world that you have the capacity to withstand their conventional attacks. But what are you going to do, Iran, if tomorrow the Americans or the Israelis are going to use a tactical nuclear bomb against one of your big cities, be it Tehran, I don't know, Mashhad, Isfahan, Yazd, any city, doesn't matter. What are you going to do? You think that this bullshit type of negotiations and appeasing the aggressor, or giving hints that probably you are going to be willing to give up on the enriched uranium, you think that all of this is going to help? I mean, it's insane. We also have that fifth column inside Iran, the Zarif, Rouhani, and others, those so-called moderates or reformists, as they are labeled in the West, which have been working for a couple of years as Trojan horses for Western interests inside Iran. I mean, Rouhani administration is directly responsible for putting concrete into the nuclear facilities inside Iran, and stopping more or less the Iranian nuclear program, and also cutting a lot of funds from the military development and research for ballistic missiles and drones. If it wasn't for the Rouhani administration, I think honestly, at this time, Iran would have had the long-range intercontinental ballistic missile capability to hit Washington if they needed to do this. I mean, they would have had already this capability. But this administration, the Rouhani administration, worsened things and weakened Iran. After that, we had the election of late President Raisi, who had a different mindset, and he started to strengthen the Islamic Republic again. But unfortunately, he died, or let's put it as probably it was, he got killed also by the Israelis. And once again, the Iranians weren't willing to escalate at that time, and they said that it was an accident. No, it wasn't an accident, because we saw what happened and how it happened and where it happened, close to Azerbaijan. For sure, President Raisi, unfortunately, he got assassinated by the Israelis. And this set of events prepared the ground for this direct war. And now what is Iran doing after winning the hearts and minds of the planet? I mean, 1 year ago or 2 years ago, due to American and Israeli propaganda, when you were talking with people, at least in the West, about Iran, they were having this crazy image of a crazy dictatorial regime there who is persecuting women. They are crazy and they want to attack us, and they are extremists, and so on and so forth. Now this bullshit is over. I mean, this propaganda war has failed for the Americans and Israelis. Iran is literally the most popular country in the world these days. The revolutionary guards, I mean, they're like superheroes now. Even in the West, people are cheering them as if they are like the Superman and Spider-Man and superheroes of the planet. The same, the West has discovered huge political figures inside Iran, which unfortunately many of them got assassinated, like Mr. Larijani, the Kantian philosopher, and many others. They discovered the true personality, the huge influence on the liberation movement that the late Grand Supreme Leader, the Grand Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, had during his leadership as I said, as Supreme Leader of Iran. I mean, the West and all the planet, not only the West, they are discovering the true face, the revolutionary face and the anti-imperialist face of Iran. And at this time, what Iran chooses to do, the leadership, to go for some bullshit ceasefire with the Americans, and a couple of hours after saying that they are going to negotiate, already we are seeing the Americans brag. We saw yesterday the spokesperson of Mr. Trump, Mrs. Lewitt. She literally said that, yeah, Iran sent us a 10-point plan plan, but it's ridiculous. We don't take it seriously, and the president threw that plan to the garbage bin. I mean, that statement publicly humiliated Iran. And Iran is still considering at this time, and after the horrendous crime perpetrated by Israel yesterday in Lebanon, they are still considering to go to Islamabad to talk what with these lunatics. The only path looking forward is calculated escalation against the American and Israeli aggression, and to drag this war at least until fall, until September, October, November, when there are the midterms elections in the United States, hoping that Trump is going to lose the elections. He will lose the majority in the Congress, and then a set of events will occur, and eventually he will get impeached, because the guy week after week is showing to everyone that he is more erratic and crazy and unhinged. And he talks about destroying civilizations, destroying forever the Iranian nation, and other type of genocidal statements of this caliber. Yesterday we saw that puppet Mark Rutte, the guy from NATO. He came to Washington to visit Donald Trump. Mark Rutte, which honestly, I don't even know how he has the courage to show himself in front of media. I mean, that guy is so weak and such a puppet. Let's not forget that this Secretary of NATO, he was calling Donald J. Trump literally daddy last year. So this guy came to Washington yesterday, had some discussions with Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Trump again went back on social media, because he has this almost dark need, let's call it like this perversion, to write every couple of hours on Truth Social, and to write with uppercase letter, with capital letters, to somehow give strength to his statements. And he wrote yesterday, NATO wasn't there when we needed them, and they won't be there if we need them again. Remember Greenland, that big, poorly run piece of ice. President Donald J. Trump. So what is Trump saying? He's once again threatening NATO countries, especially European NATO countries, that he is going to take Greenland by force. And supposedly he was talking yesterday with Rutte, but this is not yet official, that he is thinking about closing some US bases in some European countries like Spain or Germany. Praise to God that this will happen. I mean, this is for the better of the Europeans, if the Americans are going to get their shit out of their countries, because as we saw in the Gulf, having US bases on your soil is not going to provide you prosperity and protection. No, you are going to become a colony, a protectorate of the Americans. And if they have the ability, they are going to drag you into their wars, and they are going to destroy your economy, like we saw in the case of Germany, who it's suicidal at this point. They are going through an assisted suicide when it comes to their economy, by destroying all their economical relations with Russia, by stopping the purchase of oil and gas from Russia, which was and still is a reliable energy source at good price, which was basically the engine for the German the German industry. Now the Germans are going through a recession, and for what? For serving their American masters, which led them to nothing. They didn't gain anything. The same the Ukrainians. They believed all that democratic bullshit and propaganda coming from the Americans. They were victims of color revolutions in 2014 to 2014. They went on this radical path of antagonizing the Russians. They are now caught in the war with Russia. Ukraine is completely destroyed, and even the Americans are talking about taking this and taking that resource from Ukraine. So only losing cards for these countries which are inside the US area of influence, and especially for the countries which are housing US military bases. These US military bases are not providing anything for you Europeans. So it's better for you to tell the Americans to get out faster than the Americans will make this decision. And as things are unfolding and considering the international changes, the fact that the Americans are gradually getting weaker and weaker, these bases are going to get closed and they are going to take their soldiers back home, which would be a positive development and would help to lower the tensions on the international political arena. I think this is pretty much all for today, for Thursday. Let's see how things are going to continue. As I said, I'm not too positive. I think Iran is doing a big mistake if they are going to Islamabad. I'm even thinking that the Americans and the Israelis are capable of looking to find a way to assassinate the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament, Mr. Kalibaf, which is a very important figure on the caliber of Mr. Larijani. And I saw some information that Kalibaf might travel to Islamabad to lead these negotiations, which is, once again, it's crazy. I mean, the Israelis are going to try to kill this guy at any time they can find him, they can localize him, and they will do it. Even in Pakistan, I don't see Israel getting cold feet about killing Kalibaf in another country. So Iran should think it very, very well. And unfortunately, if in all these hard weeks for Iran, when we saw bombings and destruction and people getting killed and children getting massacred inside Iran, we saw only unity among Iranian people, and we saw the beauty of the Iranian society and their nationalism, their patriotism, and how they are together, all of them, regardless of their political views, how they are together in order to protect their country and to fight back against this aggression. But now, since this statement about negotiations and temporary ceasefire, there is a growing wave of frustration among Iranians. Many of them are upset. Many of them are not happy that Iran has not yet answered militarily against Israel for what Israel did yesterday in Lebanon against Hezbollah. Let's not forget that Hezbollah started again this war, of course, for their own strategic reasons, because they couldn't continue as they did for more than 1 year in a ceasefire with Israel, with an Israel which was not respecting the ceasefire and was killing Lebanese people on a daily basis. But also, they went into this war again to support the Iranians and to limit Israel's capability of attacking in full power Iran. And now there is this point of view in Iran, which I think it's right, that Iran and the politicians, the leadership in Iran, they should not turn their back on the Shias in Lebanon. And okay, if you want to talk about a ceasefire with the Americans, do a ceasefire with the Americans, but don't give up on the Shias of Lebanon and continue to fire against Israel. Israel is not part of this ceasefire, Iran. And by allowing Israel to have an open hand in Lebanon, you are going to lose a lot. Also, you are giving them time to rearm, to get new interceptor missiles, and to get back to square one. And unfortunately, the Americans and the Israelis can go back to square one after a couple of weeks or months. But for Iran, it will be very hard to go back to square one because they lost some military capabilities. Okay, they managed to salvage a lot because most of them are in underground military bases. But still, you have lost important strategists, important political figures, important nuclear scientists, important military leaders. You got your civilian infrastructure bombed and a lot of it destroyed. And what are you doing now? You are offering an off-ramp for the Americans and the Israelis to rest a little bit, get ammunition and go back to doing the same thing. I mean, this is complete lunacy, and I don't see this going well for Iran, unfortunately. I will close it here. Thank you for watching. Please follow, subscribe, share if you like my content. Also, if you want me to touch on certain subjects, feel free to write me in the comments. And looking forward to our next meeting tomorrow on Friday, hopefully with better news from the ongoing developments in the Middle East. Until then, I'm wishing you a great and awesome day.